Hi, my name is Ariel and I'll be doing a presentation on cooking the brisket. And this is lab 13. Alrighty, for my next slide, you'll be seeing the first part, which is to cut and prep your brisket. You really want to make sure you get good beef quality for your brisket so that it does everything it has to marinate and holds in the flavor, as well as in the end quality has wonderful flavor and texture. Next, you're going to season it. I used a mesquite seasoning typically when I do a brisket. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do a brisket because I couldn't afford it this time around. But typically when I do a brisket, I do a mesquite seasoning, and I just add a little bit of paprika to it, and I also do mustard as well. And so through that, you basically just want to I usually let it sit to come to room temperature, just because it's how I was always taught to cook red meat. It really allows it to cook from an even standpoint, as opposed to cooking it from when it's overly cold to singeing it as soon as it gets onto the burner or into the smoker. And then you're going to get your smoker ready. Typically it has to go into the smoker for 8 to 10 hours. It depends on which kind of smoker you have. The smoker that I have, it typically takes about 3 hours, just because it's a Traeger, so it does things a little differently, and it works a little differently with different types of meats. But and then after that, you're gonna go place it onto the smoker, and with that being intact and being in there for so long, it's really going to allow for the meat to marinate, all the connective tissue to dissolve, so that when you cut it open, it really just falls apart and creates a really nice juicy flavor on the interior. It's a pretty nice and easy way to kind of make a meal at the end of the day. And of course the seasonings are wonderful. They marinate nice into the meat, and the crust is always delicious. But for the next slide, you'll have the final product. So here you'll see the final product of what brisket typically looks like, especially when it's cut up. So you kind of have a juicier center, and after you cook it, you kind of want to let it sit for a little bit and let those juices kind of really settle and the temperature to settle, and then you can cut into it and it kind of just falls apart due to those connective tissues breaking down. And then you also have that brine that we made, so it creates a crunchy outer edge to it. And then yeah, it's a little bit fatty, but it has a good amount of marbling in it to where it has a good flavor profile without being overly dense or oily or anything like that. Sometimes, depending on people's brines, it can come out a little bit more oily than usual, but typically that's people's tactic that they use. Alrighty, for the next slide, thank you. And that is my lab 13 for the brisket. Alrighty, have a good day.